So the next article I wanted to read is titled Lou Dobbs, Trump Faced a Venomous Assault Like No President Other Than Lincoln. This is by Hemant Mehta on the Friendly Atheist website, so let's give it a read and see what it says. During an interview yesterday with MAGA cultist and Trump sycophant Pastor Robert Jeffress, Fox Business Channel host Lou Dobbs claimed that no president has suffered the kind of assault Donald Trump has seen outside of Abraham Lincoln. 3 other presidents have been assassinated. That's a really good point. 3 other presidents have been assassinated. What the fuck is this guy thinking? I figured we'd pull up the clip and actually give it a watch and see what was actually said.
Rhinos like Adam Genzinger, who asked you to repent for your support of President Trump, as the president is being, again, fraudulently impeached by the Dems, and there is not even a whisper of dissent or opposition to that in the national left-wing media.
Well, I have to say, I think the reason that there's no dissent or anything in the left-wing media, or in the media at all, except for on Lou Dobbs' show, is because the guy inspired an insurrection against the U.S. Capitol. I think that's a pretty fucking fair reason to impeach the guy. And actually, a lot of Republicans agree with that. Lou Dobbs is an extremist. This guy that you see on screen right here, this guy is an extremist. And so is Robert Jeffress. They're both extremists. You would have to be to defend something like this. Let's hear Robert Jeffress's response to Dobbs's point.
Something we're going to see more and more over these next 4 years, and that's an attempt to shame people like you and me who strongly support this president into repenting of our support of him. Well, I'll guarantee you I'm not repenting of anything.
Language. Did you hear him? A Christian man saying, dang. That's wrong. I can't believe it. If he can say dang, I can say dang, right? Can't every kid in the country say dang? If a Christian man is saying dang, it's going to be anarchy soon. I find it fascinating that this guy is telling us he has nothing to repent for. Nothing? Like literally nothing?
Well, I'll guarantee you I'm not repenting of anything.
Anything. I guess he's basically like Jesus, right? He's pretty much perfect.
Certainly not my support of this great president. I told USA Today this week that I had absolutely no regrets whatsoever.
Okay, I just want to point this out. You guys probably know of this, but I've covered Jeffress a few times. So I want to point out that Jeffress went on Fox News. I think it was an op-ed on their website, basically saying Trump lost the election. This is shortly after the election, too. This was like the end of November, I think. He put out this op-ed, said Trump lost, Biden won. We need to align behind President Biden because his success is our success. And I thought that was pretty honorable. The guy is a scumbag and a monster and horrific in too many ways, and I don't even need to get into it right now. But that is what we need. We need people on the Republican side telling people that Trump lost and accepting Biden as the president, because causing strife, political strife and agitation like this is bad for the country. It's harmful and damaging. And after the Capitol riots, this guy actually came out and said that the people who rioted were not true Christians. They were terrible. They were born of Satan. They're bad people. He denounces them, blah, blah, blah. In reality, there were a lot of Christians there, so he can play the no true Scotsman fallacy all he wants, but they were Christians, period. The fact that he was denouncing the act and the actors, though, that's a good sign. We need more of that in the country. But after denouncing the riot and after standing behind Biden, I guess he felt compelled to come on a show publicly and stand behind Trump because he was probably getting a lot of heat from his extreme right-wing congregation.
No regrets whatsoever in supporting President Trump, and I told him this week that I believed he is the greatest president of my lifetime, and he will go down as the most pro-life, pro-religious liberty president in American history, and nothing anyone says is going to change that.
Absolutely no chance. Trump's reputation is fucked at this point. There is no way to redeem it. He has fucked his reputation 6 ways to Sunday. There is no way for him to fix that after everything that he did. First of all, he was very, very controversial to begin with. So that was going to be in the history books anyways. Controversial figures usually have a descriptor for the good and a descriptor for the bad in the history books. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are kind of looked at as like kind of screwy people or whatever, and people usually list their good points and their bad points. It's easy to find each. Trump will, at the very least, be viewed as a controversial figure. And at the worst, what I believe is going to happen, once the Republican Party tries to wash their hands of Trump, no one's going to be left to defend him, except for a few extremists, and he will go down in the history books as exactly what he was. I don't think Trump has any chance of having a good reputation after this.
Lou, he's leaving office next week with his legacy intact.
And that's another important point. The fact that Jeffress is acknowledging that Trump is leaving office next week. Or, of course, now it's after that. Biden is president. But he was acknowledging when this clip came out that Trump was leaving office. And that was extremely important because a lot of pastors were not. Earlier in the podcast, we looked at a lot of pastors who can't deal with the fact that they were wrong about this. Greg Luck, up to the day, claimed that Trump was going to be the one who was inaugurated. Kat Kerr, up to a couple of days before, refused to acknowledge that Biden was going to be the president. Lots of pastors were doing this and deceiving people and making this transition harder. It was always going to happen, but making it harder is only making people's lives worse.
Absolutely, and it's an extraordinary legacy, all the more because of the efforts of the radical Dems, the deep states, from the beginning almost of his candidacy for the office that they tried to deny him. His 4 years in office are remarkable in achievement, all the more so because of the naked, corrupt opposition of the radical left and the deep state.
I love how he just rattles this shit off and gives no examples, gives no, evidence of any kind, nothing. He just says the deep state, which, by the way, in itself, that term, deep state, sets me off. It's like a trigger for me because it automatically tells me what you're about to say is a conspiracy theory. I mean, I acknowledge that there are a lot of friends among people in high places and money will get you places and stuff like that. That's obvious. But deep state, that term specifically, has turned into a dog whistle for QAnon nutbags who are totally unhinged from reality.
Well, that's right, Lou. And I remember so well about 6 months after he became president, I remember sitting in the Oval Office and telling him, Mr. President, you have an axis of evil that is going to conspire to take you down. Not only the media and the Democrats, but the establishment Republicans. And that proved to be true.
Establishment Republican. Okay, so from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments here, but Jeffress said that he told this to Trump at the very beginning of his term, right? Did I miss something? Establishment Republicans were never against Trump for the first year, at least. They all agreed to give him a chance and align behind him, all of them. And some of them, like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, stuck it out to the bitter end. Even after he tried to incite an insurrection, they stuck it out to the bitter end and stayed by his side and defended him, and to this day are saying we shouldn't be impeaching him for it. Even after he's out of office, what's the end game there? He is worthless at this point. He's a normal citizen. He has no chance of pardoning anybody. He has no real political power anymore. I guess except for the fact that he's trying to start the Patriot Party. But aside from that, basically every single establishment Republican was behind Trump, at least for his first year. So I'm not sure if Jeffress was trying to prime Trump to be in paranoia mode, or if he was trying to make Trump feel like he was the only one that he could trust, or what his plan was. But that's bullshit.
Conspired together, but they couldn't stop his tremendous achievements in spite of all of those headwinds.
His enormous achievements? What exactly did he achieve? I would love to know. What did he achieve? I mean, he wrote a few. He didn't. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. He didn't write any executive orders. Other people, like lawyers, people who know how to write executive orders, they wrote the executive orders for him. So Trump's giant fucking achievement was sitting in front of a piece of paper and signing his name to it. That's literally it. He would do anything it took to maintain and grow his political power. That's all he was interested in the end.
And I am grateful, eternally grateful, for what he has done for our nation. Even though he's leaving office for now, his legacy will endure.
I don't believe it. I don't believe his legacy is going to endure. I think he's going to be looked upon with disgust and hatred, truly, honestly. Like, I don't say that because I don't like the guy. I say that as a factual thing. I believe that usually cult leaders are looked upon with disgust and hatred, and that's what Trump is. In all seriousness, I believe that's how Trump is going to be viewed. Now, Dobbs, in this next section, has an impassioned plea, an impassioned speech to give to us. So let's see what he has to say.
Legacy will endure. Also enduring are the corrupt forces within our government who worked against him for more than 4 years.
Who? Trump had complete power to fire anybody he wanted. Is he talking about, like, elected officials? Like Nancy Pelosi or whatever? Like, Nancy Pelosi was not the Speaker of the House from 2016 to 2018. A Republican, Paul Ryan, was the Speaker of the House. The Republicans controlled the entire government from 2016 to 2018. The House, the Senate, the presidency, the Supreme Court. Every branch of government was controlled by the Republicans for those 2 years. So I'm not sure what forces he's talking about were, like, conspiring for the entire 4 years to take him down. Like, what forces inside the government? What is this dude talking about?
4 years. As I said, trying to destroy the man. Not just the president, but the man.
Trying to destroy the president. Not just the president, but the man. There were people out there who were doing really mean things to Trump. They were responding to Trump in mean ways on Twitter, right? I'll acknowledge that freely. But Trump had literally no limits to what he would do to people. No limits. I don't know if you guys know who Joe Scarborough is, but Joe Scarborough is a political analyst, a commentator on maybe MSNBC. I don't remember. Anyway, he's on some show with Mika Brzezinski, right? He's the Republican. She's the Democrat. It's kind of a, fair and balanced type of thing. Anyway, Joe Scarborough in the 90s or the 2000s, if memory serves, he had this assistant at, like, this newsroom that he worked at. I'm probably getting this story wrong. If I am, somebody put the correct story in the comments for me. He had an assistant at this newsroom that he worked at, and things started going downhill for this assistant emotionally. They started struggling and having a hard time. They were dealing with depression. And as time goes on, things got worse and worse, and eventually the assistant ended it in the office. And it was this big, traumatizing experience for Joe Scarborough and for the people at the office who worked with this person every day. They lost their friend, basically. They lost somebody that they worked with every single day of their lives. They ended it right there in the office. Imagine how difficult that would be. What do you think Trump did when he got that information? Did he keep his fucking mouth shut and respect the fact that Joe Scarborough and other people had to deal with this traumatic experience of, having this friend who ended their lives? Did Trump respect that and leave it be? No. He claimed Joe Scarborough was a murderer, and it was a murder, and tried to get Joe Scarborough investigated by the police. Imagine that shit. That is how low Trump will go. That's how low he'll go. There is literally no bottom to that pit. Trump is the lowest piece of shit alive. So telling me that people try to destroy not the president but the man, I don't want anybody to be destroyed. But I just can't help but see the irony in what's being said right now, based on what type of a person Trump is. Let's keep listening.
Destroy the man. Not just the president, but the man. It is the most vile, venomous assault ever conducted against a president.
This coming from somebody defending Trump. This is coming from somebody who's defending Donald Trump, saying that people were vile and venomous to Trump. Trump was the most vile, venomous person in the highest position in the world. And he was destroying people's lives with a tweet. Destroying people's lives, taking everything from them. I have zero sympathy for Donald Trump. Zero.
Our country's history, short of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Short of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I love that he skipped right over the other assassinations that took place in American history. Like Hemant Mehta mentioned that earlier on his website. Just completely ignoring the others. Didn't John F. Kennedy get assassinated? Who else got assassinated? Wasn't Ronald Reagan shot at? Did you not consider that? Maybe that was like persecution, right? Wasn't that kind of scary? What is wrong with this dude? His entire world revolves around Trump. And Lincoln is knocking around in there somewhere because he believes Trump is as good as Lincoln. So he throws his name out at every available opportunity.
And this is a nation that can't heal, that cannot come together until we understand the truth and the reality of what we have witnessed over the course of the past 4 years of this man's presidency.
I'm not sure what he means. We can't heal until we witness the truth of what's happened over the past 4 years. What do you mean? What does he mean by that? I really don't understand. It sounds like vague, flowery language that's at its core nonsensical. That's really who Lou Dobbs is, though. Ultimately, a nonsensical dude who will say basically anything to get views and clicks and to support his president, or ex-president now, I guess. So let's go back to the article by Hemant Mehta and see what else it said. This is a quote from Lou Dobbs from the video we just watched. His legacy will endure. It is the most vile, venomous assault ever conducted against a president in our country's history, short of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. This is Hemant Mehta speaking. Jeffress, of course, agreed completely. These men have very short-term memories. Barack Obama was constantly the victim of right-wing lies and smear campaigns that were never based in fact, often from Dobbs himself. Oh yeah, not to mention, do you guys remember all the scandals that Obama was embroiled in? The tan suit scandal? Do you guys remember the Dijon scandal? He got Dijon mustard on his hot dog, and that was a massive fucking scandal because what kind of a man puts Dijon mustard on his hot dog? No man at all. He's a beta. He's not fit to be president because he uses Dijon mustard. I love how those arguments just go right out the fucking window when it comes to Trump. This is Hemant Mehta again. Other presidents have been criticized for the duration of their term because that's part of what the job entails. In Trump's case, however, no other president arguably deserved as much criticism as he got, and he still hasn't paid any kind of serious price for it. You can't work with a man who doesn't understand the job he applied for and who doesn't care about doing it well. Trump used the office to boost his personal brand. We'll be feeling the effects of his vanity campaign for generations to come. Dobbs and Jeffress are too stuck in their bubbles to understand why so many other people have good reason to despise and denounce Trump. If Trump's legacy endures, it'll only be as a cautionary tale. I agree. I don't think there's no chance Trump's legacy is going to endure. He's not going to look good at the end of history here. Like in 50 years, what does Nixon look like? What does Nixon look like to us? He looks like an idiot and a terrible person. He's most famous for his scandals. Nobody respects Nixon. But would you be surprised to find out that the Moonies cult and many other people at that time did hunger strikes and protests in defense of Richard Nixon? Richard Nixon was very, very loved at the time by the Republicans. And here we are. Nobody likes Nixon. He was a monster, and we all know he was. That's going to be Trump in 30, 40 years. It's already almost Trump. A lot of people don't fucking like the guy. But in 40 years, I heard somebody else say this, maybe the YouTuber Vosh at some point, I'm not sure. Anyways, in 40 years, MAGA stuff is going to be the new Nazi material that, you know, you find in your grandfather's attic and you quietly burn it where nobody can see. Don't tell anybody you found it. Just put it in the fire and get rid of it because it's disgusting. That's what the MAGA material is going to be in 30 or 40 years, I believe. And as for this line right here about Trump not paying any kind of serious price for it, that's true. He hasn't. I'd like to see Trump in prison for the crimes that he's committed, for the actual crimes that he's committed. I'd love to see that. But I think that the one thing that hurt him more than anything was being removed from Twitter. He took so much pride in that Twitter account. It ate him up that he lost it. And once again, I'm just sitting here drinking his tears.